In a weird way, I always feel close. I'm always confident that I'm there. Last week, especially on Sunday, was very nice. It was a very good round of golf. It was by far my best round of Valderrama, and to play a bogey-free with really not, besides the last hole, never really being in danger of making a mistake or a big mistake, right? So, feeling good, feeling confident. Hopefully, I can give it a run again this week.
Joy in the front.
Jon, 37 years since a Spanish player has won the Open Championship. And we all know how creative the Spaniards can be around the greens with their shot making. Why do you think we have not had a Spanish champion in these 37 years? And secondly, was Valderrama a very good prep for this week?
I can't answer why. Obviously, there's been a few, the main ones, Ollie and Sergio, have had their chances, right? It's never easy to win a major, and it's never easy to win an Open. I can't really give you an answer why. I think the way Seve played, it's a bit of a different way to play in links courses. I think is one of the reasons why he was so loved in Great Britain and Ireland, because I don't think anybody conceived that was a way to play links golf, just hit driver everywhere and somehow find a way to put her on the green and chip and putt and putt. It was not normal, which is a testament to how good of a golfer he was. If anything, after that, I mean, might have been good short game among Spanish players, but none of us have played that way, right? I think Sergio and I are obviously more known for being ball strikers. Ollie, besides the driver, everything else was outstanding, one of the best iron players ever. Incredible short game, both Ollie and Sergio. It was just never easy to win an Open. In Valderrama, we had quite a bit of wind, and that's always going to be a very hopeful week to get ready for it. The other thing that Valderrama does, it's challenging. Every golf shot you hit there's very little margin of error. So it does prep you mentally to get ready for a challenge that a major can be. Not to the fullest, but it's challenging enough to where that way you have to think about it quite a bit. And with the wind, obviously there's differences, right? But in those two aspects, it helps.
Number 4 in the back there, please.
Morning, Jon. Firstly, I play at Royal St Ports, so nice to hear that your dad's enjoying the membership. I did see him there a few months ago. On Portrush, you've played it a few times now. Have you got a favourite hole out there?
It's not there anymore. Would have been the old 17th. Every time I think my caddy, Adam, is sick of me telling him how the old 17 used to be. It's like, oh, because this is where the tee box used to be, and with this wind yesterday, the wave bunker would have been in play, and that was definitely my favorite when I played the amateur here. It was just striking. If I have to choose an actual hole that we play in, it would probably be the 4th or the 5th. I think the 5th is quite an unusual hole in links golf, right? It's a big elevation change, drivable par 4. You know, I'm not used to standing on a tee in any links course and actually getting a view of the entire course like that, looking into the ocean. I think it's quite a good hole. And the 4th, just because it's difficulty and intricacy as well, I think. I've always enjoyed it. I don't know, it'd probably be the 5th over the 4th, though.
Sorry, Swami.
Jon, I know scheduling is very important for all the top players, and every time you tee up, it becomes a very important tournament for the player. But how difficult is it to wait for 8 months after the Open? You know, it's now 8 months for the next major. Like, you know, I know the major is the absolute pinnacle. So how difficult is it to wait for 8 months?
Yeah, luckily we still have things to look forward to in between. So it would be a lot more difficult if the second the Open was over. I would just strictly be thinking about the Masters, right? Luckily, we have some big events that also matter in between. I wouldn't say it's difficult. I don't know. I think we're so used to it at this point. It's just kind of what it is. I don't find it difficult, at least now.
Number 4, thanks.
John, you mentioned you've had some success playing in Ireland throughout your career. I'm just wondering, what's distinct about Irish golf relative to anywhere else in the world?
Well, I mean, links golf in general, it's hard to replicate it unless you're in this part of the world, right? If you're asking the difference between Irish and Scottish golf, I don't know. From what I've played in Ireland, I think maybe the designs, or I really don't know how to explain it best, but it just seems like they use the contours in a little different way, and all the courses seem to be in a way where there's a few more dunes, right? So if you take here Portrush, Ballyliffin, Lahinch, all those courses, it's a lot more, even Ballybunion, it's framed around the dunes and using the elevation a little bit better. Or not better, at you using the elevation. Like even a Portrush, you're going up and down a little bit more, right? When you're playing Troon, flat, as can be, Birkdale, flat, right? So I'm not used to seeing those changes, right? And if you play in Lahinch as well, you do have those up and downs, and you're going into plateaus, there's dunes in the way, you have a par 3 where you can't see the green, right? So it's different, but at the same time almost the same, right? It's just a different way of using the contours of the courses. I don't know if it's just the natural landscape or the way they decided to do it when they came over, but I would say that's the main difference.
Jon Rahm finding his form in major championships after a bit of a lull when he left the PGA Tour for Live Golf in December of 2023. You see his finishes this year, T14 at the Masters, T8 at the PGA, T7 at the U.S. Open. At the height of his power, he was the best player in the world. I think in some ways he put his legacy in jeopardy by leaving the PGA Tour because it was an unknown and will be an unknown of how Live Golf wins are counted in history as opposed to the Players' Championship and PGA Tour events. But it looks like he's starting to put that lull behind him in finding his form in the biggest events.
I think he's had some acceptance with his choices.
Okay.
You know? I really do. I think there's a certain acceptance level that he had to come to, and I think he took some criticism, and there's no doubt I was one of the criticizers for him leaving and going to Live, but I understand why he did it. I wasn't happy with the fact that he did it.
He said he wasn't going.
That's, I think, one of the reasons why I was unhappy. But,
Sure.
you know, things happen, and you put enough money on the table for certain players, and they're going to take it. And
Sure.
I can't blame them for that. But at the same time, I think some of the decision and then everything that happened after that kind of created a swirl in him that obviously his golf game went down south a little bit and didn't perform the way we think he can or should perform. I still believe that he is going to win the career Grand Slam. I do. Wow. He's got that kind of game, and he is so perfectly suited for this golf course and this type of golf, in my opinion. But I think one of the reasons that he's had this turnaround, he is because of that acceptance that of kind of where he is right now, and he's starting to have more fun, it seems like, on the golf course. He's starting to enjoy playing, and a guy in his position who's won 2 majors and in the fashion that he won them both in, you would think that after the PGA Championship, he would have been mad because of the way he performed. I'm sure he was a little upset, but the way he talked about it, I've never heard a player in his position talk about it, and that's what gives me really a good vibe for him this week, and I think he's at the top of my list as far as favorites. It's because of his sound at the PGA. Take a listen to what he had to say after a really kind of what I would consider kind of devastating loss.
God, it'd been a while since I had that much fun on the golf course. It's 15 holes. Even the first 7 of the day where I was swinging well and things just weren't happening, but I kept myself in there, make the pars that I needed, and then play really good golf from the 8th to the 15th. But I had a positive to take from this week. I know it's pretty fresh wound right now, but there's been a lot of good happening this week and a lot of positive feelings to take for the rest of the year.
That's what it's about right there. I mean, that is a fantastic way to look at it, considering that he probably felt he should have won that golf tournament coming down the stretch. He missed, a handful of putts on that back 9 that were inside 15 feet that could have given him. Then obviously on 16, 17, and 18, we saw what happened. He had to go for it. He had to try to go for it. So we saw the kind of meltdown at the end on the Green Mile. But that's going to happen if you're going for it. He knew he was out of it when he didn't make the putts on 12, 13, 14, and 15. And so I don't put that past him. I just love the fact that he said what he said in his sound. And it gives me, I think, honestly, he's my favorite this week.
Wow.
I wasn't surprised that he was so philosophical at that moment. It was admirable. I wasn't surprised because I think there was a certain joy that he put himself back in the frame in a major championship. And I never really bought the argument that he became in any way a worse player when the source of his paycheck changed. But players go through slumps. They have off years. Perhaps Jon Rahm just had an off year. But I do believe, and I've talked to a player about this today, that Jon Rahm feels a little bit more pressure when he comes out to these weeks now, not because he's got his own standard that he wants to live up to, which he obviously does, but he's in a way been put in the position of being an advocate indirectly for the LIV golf circuit as well. It's as though he has to prove that LIV did not make him a worse player simply because he had that off year in the majors when he first went there. And that's a question that the rest of the guys who show up here don't actually have to answer. Even the other LIV guys aren't in a position of having to justify their play versus where they actually make their money. But Jon Rahm still seems somewhat trapped in that little corner where he's the guy people point to and say, LIV made you worse. May not be true, but I do believe that Jon Rahm has a chip on his shoulder and is going out of his way to prove that LIV has not made him worse. But what we've seen from Jon Rahm in the last two chances in high-profile events that he's had to win, both at the Olympics and at the PGA Championship, he collapsed over the back 9 holes. That's not something that the Jon Rahm of old would search for positives in. That's the kind of thing that would fire up a Jon Rahm. But I'm with Aaron. I would be shocked if Jon Rahm is not right in the mix here on Sunday.
I would too. It has to be tough for a player who would win the Memorial and embrace Jack and talk about the history of the game and talk about Arnold Palmer, win Torrey Pines, and talk about Tiger. You know, we know that Tom Watson had 39 wins in 8 majors. We know that Jack had 73 wins and Tiger had 82 PGA Tour wins. We just don't know what LIV golf is going to mean and how it's going to measure up to PGA Tour wins and Korn Ferry Tour wins and DP World Tour wins. And for a player who was steeped in the history of the game to not have access to the biggest events in the game outside of the majors, I think it has to hurt him somewhere deep. And maybe he's coming out of it, and I think he is coming out of it. And his results are showing that he is coming out of it. But for a while, you can't come on to the professional game talking about Seve and Palmer and Jack and Tiger, and then all of a sudden, you're not at TPC Sawgrass anymore. You're not at Memorial anymore. You're not at Torrey Pines anymore. You're not at these important PGA Tour events that help build the career. I know the 18 majors and the 15 are the high marks, but so are those 73 wins and 82 wins and 39 for Tom and 29 for Rory. Those numbers matter too.
And it's not even just the courses. I mean, Jon Rahm finished in the top 10 in his first 20 LIV events. The only thing that's evidence of, it says nothing about the quality of Jon Rahm's golf. It says a lot about the depth of talent on LIV. He's swimming in shallow waters.
He is. Well, someone who has figured out how to continue to play at a high level